Alright, I'm doing a quick video. I am going to be showing you how to do a Venom makeup. So this is going to be a quick video, no editing. I'm just kind of gonna, go through and go through my process. I'm going to also do it in steps. I'm going to do it how to achieve a more simplistic look and how to take that, once you get that, into something a little bit more dynamic and evolved. So I'm going to be using water-activated makeup. I use Krylon, but any of the water-based makeup like that will work. I'm going to have 5 colors. I got red, white, yellow, blue, and black. My black is really pathetic at this moment. I need to get more, but what we have, it's what's going to do. I also have 2 brushes. Both of them are round brushes. This is a 6 and this is a 2. So that's for smaller detail. I also am going to be using sponges for the larger areas. They usually kind of look like this when you get them at a store. I just cut them in half because the flat surface works the best. So what I'm going to start by doing is I'm going to start by doing a quick SketchUp of what I want it to look like. Now this is something I've done before and I'm not even looking at the picture. So I'm just gonna grab some water. I have a water cup. So I just get some water with my brush and kind of rub it around the white paint. I'm starting with white. You kind of want to start with the lightest color for the most part. Obviously there's always some differences, but you want to start with the lightest color because it's easier to cover up a lighter color with a darker color versus the opposite. So you don't want to do the black first and then try to do like the white eye around it. So most important part, I feel like it's the mouth and the eye. Most of it, everything else gets filled with black. So I'm going to start with the eye. Let me use my mirror so I can see better. And I'm gonna, thinking about the mouth, a lot of people kind of do just straight back, and I want to give it more of a graphic, exaggerated look. So I kind of wanted to kind of go back and then up. So I'm gonna have to keep the eye a little bit closer to the bottom of the eye. On the forehead, I have a big forehead, so I have plenty of room up here to play with that. So if I bring it up closer, I can take it up higher up here, and that works well. So I'm just gonna quickly kind of roughly sketch with the white, kind of like what I want it all to kind of look. And the thing with Venom, he's a little bit more jagged, so you don't have to be as precise as a Spider-Man face paint. And the next thing I'm going to do is going to be the mouth. So I want the teeth showing through, obviously, so I can use the upper part of my lip and part of like my mustache area, and then bottom lip, and from like the bottom right here of my chin up to kind of like get the lips in there. So I'm not gonna sketch out the lips, just the teeth. So I'm kind of like going to do the lips. So like I said, I don't want to go straight back because that's doesn't kind of like, I want the mouth to have a dramatic shape, kind of like the eye does. So I'm gonna start from the bottom of the nose, and this way it's gonna be covered up. So you don't need to worry about making it too perfect or too thick. But what we are trying to achieve is we're trying to make sure that we kind of like the way that's looking. So I kind of like that. So I can clean my brush out and put it down. So next I'm going to fill in the area of the eye. For that I'm going to be using a sponge. The reason why I like to use sponges is because if you use a wide brush or a bigger brush, you tend to put on a lot of product on the face, which tends to go pretty thick and around the eye, and you got eyebrows and stuff like that. So that the area around the eye tends to the crease of the eye as you blink, that area kind of tends to like get muddy and kind of the makeup kind of rubs up a little bit. So with this sponge, it goes in a little bit softer, not so much. It's able to get the skin covered kind of well, but kind of evenly, and you don't see like the actual brush strokes, and it's a little bit more comfortable, especially on the eye. So I'm gonna show you the water's a little white because I just cleaned the brush, so I kind of like just a tip, kind of get a little bit in there, and I'll show you on my arm real quick. So I just get water just on the tip. You don't want to dip it too much, just a little bit, and then you kind of want to rub it against the white makeup, and you're trying to get it on the sponge. So you kind of rub it around until it starts to kind of look like there's no water coming out of the sponge. That means the water kind of sucked out the makeup. So when you put it on and you kind of want to dab it, it looks like this. So it kind of covers the skin quite well when you do that. And if I go like that, it doesn't cover the skin that well because I've used some of the makeup already. And so when it looks like this, it's too dry. When it's not covering the skin that well, it kind of has those like streaks. It's a little too dry. Now it can also be too wet, and when it's too wet, when you put it on, it kind of does that. See the difference? This is kind of pretty even, and here if you're stippling on, you can kind of like not bubbles, but it kind of collects with the sponge because it's being pulled back because there's too much water. If you have too much water on your sponge, all you have to do is pick up more makeup. So I'm going to do that, and again, I'm kind of doing it until it looks like it's not really picking up any more makeup. So to get the bottom of the eye with this, all you have to do is turn it upside down like this, and you kind of just push right against it. It feels a little weird because it kind of wiggles your eyeball a little bit when you do this part. Again, I'm not worried about it going out because I can easily cover this with the black. So I had thick eyebrows. So for this, I'm not too concerned about getting rid of it. I do want to put makeup on the actual eyebrow, obviously, because I'm trying to get it to look a little cover up, but I'm not going to like worry too much about like my eyebrows there. I'm not going to shave it off or cover it up or anything like that. So I go ahead and I fill that in. So I got the white on there for the eye. Now I can go a little bit more precise around here, but this is more just to show. So I got the white on the eye. Took a couple seconds. Now I'm gonna go ahead and do the red again. We want to do the black last at the beginning. We're gonna do more on top of the black and more on top of everything else. So I'm just gonna go ahead and grab the red, the paintbrush. Now something that some of the samples you might see online do that not the biggest fan of is you have the teeth and then everything behind it is red. To me, that kind of ruins the look a little bit because I'm going for the look of like the Venom is exposing part of my face, so my face is underneath it. When you fill it all in, it looks like it's just supposed to be the inside of the mouth. I'm thinking when you do like part of the face and not the full face, it's Venom exposing part of the face. So my mouth, the rest of the face would be underneath. The teeth could be over, but you're not seeing the inside of his mouth because I'm behind it. The human is behind it. So all I'm going to do is I'm just kind of like going to go around this area right here and kind of like outline that white line where we marked where we want the mouth to be. Now this is just pretty much the gums of Venom, because we're gonna do the teeth. You kind of want the teeth to be coming out of somewhere. So like I'm going over the white lines with the red, and it's kind of blending a little bit, making it a little bit more pink in certain areas, which is fine. Again, like the gums aren't all completely like red. So there we have that. So next we're gonna go back with the sponge, and this time we're gonna do the black. This is where you kind of want to go a little bit slower, because you're going to grab the sponge like this, like right against the face, and you're going to try to trace around the red and the white. Now, if you get black inside the eye, that's fine. There's an easy way to fix that. Since it's water-based makeup, you can just paper towel, little water, wipe it off, or you could also like try to make it into shading inside the eye. But so I'm just gonna go around and kind of like trace. Again, doing more of a stipple, and like when you get the water mixed just right with the makeup, it goes on pretty dark like this, and it doesn't look too streaky. Now, one of the things I like to do after is I do like to go back and outline everything with the black with the brush. And like I said, the brush just holds a lot more makeup than the sponge does. So you will see a little bit of a difference, and it looks kind of like a more realistic outline like that, like more comic bookish with a darker outline. Now I have the blue because for the comics, like if you just feel something completely black, it kind of flattens it out, so it kind of like distinguish the shapes for Venom. And the comics, they use a lot of blue, so I'll be using the blue to do highlights and stuff. Now, you see the shininess of it is because it's still wet, but this makeup and most water activated makeup like this dries into more of a powder, so the shininess kind of goes away. If you were to use something like grease or cream makeup, or you know, more like makeup foundations, you will have to use setting powder to set it, which is very difficult for this because you have black and white. So you have to come very, very close with different setting powders, and it's hard to kind of get a distinguished line between. All right, so I came as close as I kind of want to. I mean, I can keep going and kind of keep coming as close, but I can always go back and kind of fill that all in with the black, which I'm going to actually do right now. So just gonna go back. Okay, now the brush I use for the red. I'm gonna go back and just kind of like wet brush black makeup. And then I'm gonna go ahead and kind of like start by outlining the eye. And this is gonna give you, as you can see, a very nice clean separation versus like what it is up here, but this is just a very accurate shape. Again, these lines don't have to be that clean because he's pretty jagged, you know, with for a lot of his designs in the comic books and stuff, like the lines were really jagged, and then I'm kind of filling in different areas I see that kind of need a little help. And then I'm gonna go ahead and do the around the eye. Now right there you can kind of see a little bit of gray because it picked up some of the white from around the eye, and all it takes is just putting a little bit more black there. So I'm just gonna grab more black, put it on top, and then it kind of covers up that gray. And what I just did, I just kind of push the brush and kind of wiggle it around. Now, kind of have to think of, like, if you're taking pictures, you kind of have to think like, what's the angle you kind of want to, or faces are two-dimensional, so when doing makeup or like face painting and stuff like that, you kind of have to think like, what's the angle I'm going for? What's going to be like the premiere angle that I want this to look good in? So like if I want for it to be straight on, I gotta focus on making sure that from the side, it doesn't have to look perfect, but straight on, like, it looks really good. For this, I feel like you kind of want the face a bit more tilted so you show more of it. So ideally, it would be best if like it looks perfect from every angle, but realistically, it's gonna look better from certain angles. So you kind of have to think ahead, like, what's the purpose of the makeup? What are we trying to go for? Because that's going to give you a better idea, like, what to prioritize when it comes down to it. Because some areas will look better than others, and you want what you're going to be showing more to look the best. You don't want to be like, oh, this area right here is what looks the best, but no one's going to see it. So I'm going to rotate a little bit so you see it a little bit better. So I'm going through, I'm not doing anything with the gums yet because we got to add the teeth. So at this point, this is more, you know, a very simplistic Venom face, except the teeth. So now we're going to do the teeth. So for that, I'm gonna use the same brush and just gonna make sure that it's as clean as possible. I have a little towel. There we go. So I have the yellow paint, just because I feel like his teeth should be a little bit yellow. You want the clear difference between the white of the eye and then the, I'm gonna add a little bit more white right here. The white of the eye versus the teeth. I feel like if you do the same color, his teeth look too clean. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab some white. Now it's gonna look a little bit gray because the water's dirty, a little dirty, but you know, at this point you could probably change the water. And then, so I got a little bit of white, and then I'm gonna grab a little bit of yellow. So I have white on the brush, and then on the yellow, I'm just gonna kind of like swipe it back and forth a little bit until you get a little bit of a, oops, make us a little old, until you get like more of an off-white, like dirty teeth color, pretty much. So I'm using a bigger brush. If you feel more comfortable using a smaller brush. So there's two ways you can kind of do the teeth. You can just do like the outline first and then fill it in, or you can just try to use the same brush and kind of like start with the tip and kind of push on the brush, and it kind of gives you a tooth shape. So I'm gonna do that because I kind of already have that skill. But if you're having trouble doing something like that, I will just use a smaller brush, do the shape you want, and then fill it in. But I'm just gonna use a mirror and do this. So something else about the teeth. There's only so much room here, and his teeth tend to be quite big. So instead of doing like a lot of tiny, smaller teeth, I think it looks best if you have bigger, less teeth. And one way to achieve the bigger teeth is to have them kind of segmented, so you know they kind of go like this. They kind of overlap a little bit. That gives you less teeth to do. Also makes you able to do them longer, and it allows you to make them bigger because there's not so many small ones. So I'm going to start from the back, work my way to the front. The reason for that is, like, again, you're kind of trying to sit here and practice as you're doing it. So again, I'm going through and kind of like staggering the teeth. That's the word I was looking for. And I'm kind of bringing the tooth right here into the red because you kind of want it to look like it's coming out of the gums. So you kind of want the teeth to really look like they're in there. Like I said, I'm doing them just like with one stroke. But I'm kind of used to that. Something I will go back is make them a little bit thicker here and there, because little skinny teeth look a little weak. So as I'm getting closer to the center, I'm gonna see up here they're a little close together and kind of like straight up and down, but we're kind of taking into effect the smaller space. As we have more space, I'm gonna make them pointier and kind of like in different shapes or in different directions too, so that it looks more angry. So something I like to keep when I do teeth like this is I don't want the teeth on the top to come past into my bottom lip, because when you talk, or if you have your mouth positioned in a certain way when you paint it, and then you talk or you move your mouth a little bit, then if the tooth is supposed to continue down to the bottom lip, it might end up misaligned, and then you kind of have a tooth that looks out of place. So I'm gonna keep the upper teeth all within my upper lip. And the teeth right here, I don't want it to be that much bigger than this one, because then it just looks a little weird. Plus, later on, if I want to add the tongue, it gives me space to add the tongue through my bottom lip, which we will do later. So here we go, big tooth, and this one's kind of be like jagged out that way. Big tooth. And the last one down here. All right, so you see there's a difference between the teeth being a little bit yellow versus the eye being white. So this kind of gives us a very like simplistic Venom makeup. Well, we're going to do a little more. So something I'm not going to do right now, but you can always bring it down to the neck. Again, I want for it to look like Venom is pulling back to show the human face underneath. So I want some of the symbiote, you know what it's called, stuff kind of like spread around, kind of like it's pulling back. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab the smaller brush, grab some black, and kind of like coming from the top, kind of gonna come through and kind of like bring lines coming across. I'm not going for like a super like clean, perfect makeup for this. This is more like an overall, because then those really cool makeups you see take hours to do, and I don't think you have hours to watch. I've already been going for a little while. So I'm just gonna go ahead and do that. So that's just like adding a little extra, a little more to just like have face Venom. All right, so we have that. Something else we can do is we can outline the teeth, and that's gonna give you more detail. Now, if you outline the teeth, I feel like you should also outline the gum. We're gonna do the teeth first. And I'm gonna go ahead and probably use, if you're gonna do that, use the smaller brush than this one. I'm just gonna use this one because I can get finer lines with it, but you kind of want those lines to be a little smaller. So you're just gonna go around the tooth like that and circle it around the top. You also want the outline to continue into like the gum line. Gonna try to do these real quick. So the outline's not gonna be perfect, but something else why I like to do the teeth a little yellow is if you want to go a little wild and really go out, you can always like add saliva and, you know, stuff like that, because it's a Venom's a little slimy. If the teeth are yellow, you can kind of like add highlights and saliva on top. But if they're white, it won't show through. Again, I will be doing this a lot cleaner if I was trying to like take tons of pictures and but this is more of like a how-to guide, like how to start, how to get like a basic Venom look, and what to add to make it look a little more than just that. So now that I have the teeth done, I'm just gonna go through in the gum line, kind of just do a line, like aligning the red between the teeth. And back here. And down here. Alright, so now we have the teeth outlined. And they pop out, they stand out a lot more. Again, I'm not doing the red underneath because I want that just to be skin. So, what else can we add to make it a little bit more? I mentioned the blue, so now we can go ahead and add the blue. I'm just gonna grab another sponge, or you can use like the back of the, just gonna use the back of the black sponge and get some of the blue. Doesn't have to be a lot. We're not trying to do a lot. So I just got a little bit of blue on there. I'm just gonna come around here like on top of the eye, add a little bit of blue, maybe a little more. A little there, so it shows up a little bit, maybe a little bit like under the eye, kind of like give you more of a cheekbone. And maybe a little bit on the jaw. Let's say if you're wearing like a Spider-Man suit, I will recommend kind of like also doing the neck and continuing like the stringy lines over. So again, I'm not doing a lot. Just kind of like, I don't know, a little bit of blue on top. And that's just to give it a bit more dimension. So the areas I did was like the cheekbone, the jaw, over the eye, which will be like the brow bone, and then a little bit right here, like the nose bridge going up. So just a little bit there, just to add a little bit to it. Now, I am gonna be adding more. So this is pretty basic, with a little bit of detail added on. Now I wanna add more. So what I'm going to do is I'm gonna add highlights to the black area. So what I'm going to do is, again, I want the white to be the eye. So I'm gonna do the same thing with these for the teeth. Just grab some white and then get a little bit on the blue. So now we have a light blue instead of just pure white, because then the eye can stay the pure white. And I'm gonna go through, we added that blue on there. I'm just gonna do a couple of like little lines. Let me get a little more in there. A couple of lines like that. Kind of like have it be kind of reinforce some of the shapes you already did. If you think it's too light, you can add a bit more white. And then I'm also going to do the jawline down here, and then I'm going to do a little bit around like the gum area to kind of like get the detail, like that's like the lip. The lip on there. Also helps if you don't have like bright lights shining on your face while you're doing this, because then you'll get a little sweaty. So that's just some highlights here and there, just to kind of break it up. So we have that going on. I also want to add some of the highlights on this stuff right here, because we have highlights on this side and that should be the same stuff, and it should be a little slimy. So I'm gonna go through and again do the white and the blue, and then kind of go through and kind of like do little dots, little lines like that. It's kind of gonna make it look a little bit more slimy. And don't get a bunch in your hair like I just did right here. See, that kind of makes that already kind of like pop out a little more and kind of like look a little better. That's a lot of blue right there. All right, add a little bit more through here like that. You can also like add little dots and stuff like that, kind of like the light shining on it, and like, you know, Venom's a little slimy. Okay, so we're at a good place. I want to add more. I want to add his tongue coming out. So for that, I'm gonna get the brush, and this you want to do after to do the teeth, because if you do the teeth on top of this, some of them will start looking a little pink. So I left the gap my bottom lip for a reason, and that's where the tongue's kind of gonna come out. So all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do like I'm doing lipstick, kind of pull that through like that, and just kind of like wiggle it out and kind of like have it do that right there. And we kind of want the tongue to kind of go back, like if this was the throat, we kind of want the tongue to kind of like go back all the way. So here's a little tricky. You kind of have to like bring it through, but not paint over the teeth, and kind of fill in the gaps. So what I like to do is I kind of like to bring a line all the way across and kind of skip over the teeth, like that, like that, like that, and back here a little too. And then do it on the top as well. But again, I want to keep it like once I get past the lips, I can kind of bring it back up, but I want to keep the teeth and the tongue kind of like separate. So I'll go through, bring it up, and I'm just gonna bring it all to the top. I'm just gonna fill all that in. All those little gaps between the teeth, and then I can fill in the rest. Now, it looks a little silly just being like bright red like this. For the tongue specifically, I like to add a little bit of shading, because I feel like it really makes it stand out. Like, it's a tongue, you expect for it to have some sort of saliva on it, so you also want to add highlights. So what I like to do now is, I got the tongue done, I still got red on my brush, go into black, and just swipe your brush a couple of times, and you'll see it on the brush how it starts getting darker. I'm going to kind of do the bottom, not so much an outline. I don't like to outline the tongue, and I'll tell you why in a second. But just kind of like the bottom half of the tongue, I'm kind of gonna go through and with the darker color, kind of going back and forth, it's gonna kind of blend it for you, like so. I'm gonna try to do this looking at my phone. There we go. Like that. And kind of bring it to the teeth all the way back like that. There we go. So just a little bit. And the reason why I like to do that is, like I said, I want to add like highlights on the tongue, because in reality, it should be a little wet. It's a tongue. There should be some saliva on it. But I feel like, you know, it's a rule, like if there's a highlight, there's a shadow. That's used a lot in art. So I feel like if I just use a highlight, you kind of have to darken it a little bit so it makes sense. So I'm gonna like add wet spots through it. I am not gonna do like a straight line all the way through because that's a little too much. Think about like when someone's wearing like lipstick and lip gloss. It's usually not a straight line because lips and a tongue will have some texture. It's usually not a straight line of highlight like you would like on a glass. It's usually kind of like segmented because it's taking into consideration the texture of the lips. I kind of want to do the same on the tongue. So instead of just doing a lot of lines, I'll just do like a couple pieces like that. Kind of want to add a couple dots here and there. Like that. And kind of we put the shadow in the bottom, so we kind of want to keep the highlight on the top for the most part, but I like to add like a couple here and there in the bottom, like line hitting it from the bottom, like a couple lines here and there. All right, so we got that. We got some highlights on the face, the tongue. Now I'm going to go through and I'm gonna go through and still with the white, I'm gonna add some highlights to the teeth. So similarly to how we do the tongue, I kind of want the highlights to be like on the top of the teeth. So that means on the teeth, on the top, it's gonna be closer to the gum line like here. On the bottom ones, it's gonna be closer to the tip. And I'm gonna do only one side. I'm not going to like do like a full outline. So I'm just gonna add right there. You see that? Hopefully. Just a little bit like that. I think right here you kind of see a little bit better. And I should really clean out my water because it's looks like this. So the white makeup I'm picking up is a little off-white just because the water it's mixing with is not clean. Okay, there's that. So now I'm gonna do the highlights on the one on the bottom. Like that. It just adds a lot more dimension to it. And also, like, if you get a little bit of red like I did right here on that tooth, or a little bit too much black or whatever, you can kind of cover it up with coming back with the white. We can do this because we made the teeth a little bit yellow. If we didn't, this wouldn't show up at all. Alright, so now we have that. Now I want to add like a little bit like saliva kind of coming through the teeth. So I'm just going to grab more of the white and kind of just like kind of string it, pretty much kind of like string it along the teeth like so. I'm kind of having like some of it kind of like fall down. Again, I'm avoiding having something going across upper lip to bottom lip, but back here I'm kind of gonna have it kind of hang between the teeth, like, you know, it's kind of sticking to it. And this you kind of want it to be as white as possible. I'm gonna have some of it kind of like falling over the end. Now this is just like a lot of extra stuff that over the years I kind of learned that it kind of makes it look cooler and kind of gooey. So I'm kind of like adding this throughout as the last step to this right here. Something I didn't do. Now this step is for the brave because it can go from like kind of looking kind of cool to looking weird. Something I didn't really do is going through and adding highlights to the gum, This also I feel like works best if it's really white. I like to add highlight in a very specific way. I like to do it kind of like following the shape of the tooth right here, not all the way across, just like a little bit under each tooth, and that kind of makes it look, as gross as it sounds, like the gums push out a little bit because it's a tooth there. So I like to just kind of like come through here and just out a little bit like that. Maybe that's a little bit too much, but since it's still fresh, I can just use my finger and kind of blend it in and try again. There we go. And again, there's not that many teeth. Like that, like that, like that. So here is pretty much what it looks like. Now a little bit more highlight to some of the teeth. Because I kind of want the teeth to look wet, you know, their teeth, they're in our mouth, their saliva. And Venom drools a lot, so. All right, one last thing I like to do. We got a lot of different whites in here, and there's a lot of detail here. So I would like to come through here and kind of add some highlights. You see the difference right there from sponge to brush. So I kind of like to go through and kind of outline the inside of the eye. It gets a little bit more dimension. Than it just being like plain white. Like that. So, you know, it kind of gets a little bit more. And I'm also adding more makeup in an area that's not going to be disrupted by blinking. Like if you see right now, that happens a lot. So that's something like if you're doing photo shoots or whatever, you kind of want to keep an eye on. To just go back and add more makeup. Right here, like that, and you can use it back, kind of like smooth it out. But yeah, here's my Venom look, quick look. Probably do something like this in about 15 minutes if I'm not talking and explaining stuff. But like I said, you can kind of keep playing and adding highlights and stuff like that. But yeah, so yeah, if you have any questions, let me know. And you can kind of keep going back and forth. Like for example, you can always kind of come back here if you feel like this is too strong. Maybe add a little bit of the blue on top to kind of like tone it down a little bit. But you can go crazy. You can make this like go all over the face, like all over the neck. I just kind of want to show you. I feel like the two things that are going to either make it or break it is going to be the eye itself and then the mouth. But the more complicated you make it, the harder it's going to be for you, and the harder it is for the viewer to understand what's going on. So that's why I like to do like less teeth, bigger teeth, and it gives you more space to do like the drool going through and stuff like that. So all right, well, have a good one. Bye.